I told the most powerful alien leader in the galaxy that she looked tired and, instead of destroying me, she admitted, she was alone, in a room built for diplomacy and deception, one reckless sentence cracked open a truth neither of us was prepared to face. That was the moment everything changed. The first time I saw her, I was holding a translation tablet that insisted on turning the word piece into fermented algae that in retrospect should have warned me about how the rest of the day would go. The observation deck of Station Erendor curved around the gas giant like a silver eyelid, storms churning below in elegant blues and violent whites. Delegations stood in careful clusters, humans pretending not to stare, aliens pretending not to notice. I was there because I understood 17 human dialects, 4 Martian trade codes, and enough off-world semiotics to embarrass myself in 3-star systems. Apparently that made me qualified. She stood at the center of her delegation, still as if gravity had been designed around her. She looked human at first. Glance, dark eyes, composed mouth. Posture so precise it could have been engineered. Then you noticed her ears. Long, graceful, tapering backward in subtle arcs. They shifted almost imperceptibly, as if tasting the air. They were not decorative, they were listening. I told myself not to stare. My eyes betrayed me instantly. The docking clamps finished their low metallic chorus, and the welcoming procession began. Captain Rhea gave her speech about unity and shared futures, and how humanity was definitely not planning to reverse engineer anything. Without permission this time, my tablet hummed in my hand, feeding her words. Through alien phonetics, her gaze drifted toward me once, only once. It was like being scanned by a starship. I checked my collar to make sure I hadn't worn it inside out again. When introductions reached the linguistics team, I stepped forward. I'm here to make sure none of us accidentally declare war because of a misplaced verb, I said, smiling in what I hoped was a reassuring way. The tablet translated. Her ears twitched. A faint murmur passed through her retina. War by grammar, she said, in flawless standard, her voice low and precise. A terrifying prospect. Don't tempt us, I replied. We once fought over punctuation. The corner of her mouth shifted. It wasn't quite a smile, but it wasn't the absence of one either. Formalities concluded, we moved into the negotiation chamber, a circular room where holographic constellations hovered above a crystalline table. The air shimmered with atmospheric adjustments to accommodate both species. I took my position slightly behind Captain Rhea, tablet active, neural relay synced. The first hour passed in diplomatic choreography, trade corridor, shared research initiatives, mutual defense clauses delicately phrased so they sounded less like paranoia and more like friendship. Every time she spoke, her ears angled subtly forward when emphasizing, slightly back when deflecting. No one else seemed to notice. The problem began with an idiom. Captain Rhea said, we're prepared to put all our cards on the table. The tablet paused, word, and projected, we are prepared to place our offspring upon the sacrificial surface. The alien guard stiffened. I coughed violently and corrected it. It's a metaphor. No children will be harmed in this negotiation. Her eyes met mine again. There was something there, amusement, perhaps, or calculation, possibly both. We broke for a short recess while technicians scolded my device. I retreated to a side alcove overlooking the storm-racked planet below, pressing my forehead briefly to the cool glass. Of course, the most significant diplomatic summit of the decade would hinge on a gadget with the personality of a malfunctioning toaster. I didn't hear her approach. "You appear distressed," she said behind me. I nearly dropped the tablet into the gravity well. "I appear that way often," I admitted, turning. "It's a natural human expression. We use it for everything." Her ears tilted slightly forward. "Your technology performed creatively." That's one word for it. Silence stretched between us, not uncomfortable exactly, but heavy with unspoken protocol. Up close, I noticed faint, iridescent patterns along her temples, barely visible in the station light. Not decoration, biology, something ancient and precise. "You observed my delegation carefully," she said. I froze. "Occupational hazard." Your gaze lingered. There it was, execution by observation. I was studying nonverbal communication, I said quickly. "Very academic, extremely professional." Lingering, her ears shifted back. "Fraction, and what did you conclude?" This was the moment where a wiser man would have offered a safe, flattering generality about dignity and strength. Unfortunately, I have never been a wiser man. "I concluded," I began, then hesitated. The storms below churned in my peripheral vision. "I concluded that you look tired." The word hung there like an unapproved spacecraft. Her expression did not change. That made it worse. "Tired," she repeated. I should have stopped. Instead, I continued, digging my own diplomatic crater. "Yes. Not physically. More like," I gestured helplessly, "like someone who has to be the strongest person in every room all the time. That's exhausting." "Also," I winced preemptively, "your ears move when you pretend not to react, which is kind of unfair because it makes you seem more human than you probably intend." Silence detonated. The tablet in my hand, traitor that it was, translate every syllable with crisp efficiency. I considered whether I could plausibly leap through reinforced glass. Her ears had gone very still. I opened my mouth to apologize, to blame atmospheric interference, to claim temporary insanity induced by gas giant magnetics. Then something unexpected happened. Her ears lowered slightly, not in aggression, not in alarm, in something softer. "You believe I pretend not to react," she said quietly. "Leaders usually do," I replied before my survival instincts could intervene. "Again, humans too, we just have worse tails, sweaty palms, overly long speeches. There was a president once who blinked so much during a debate that half the planet thought he was buffering." A sound escaped her, brief, almost sharp. It took me a second to realize it was laughter. It changed her face entirely. "I do not understand this buffering president," she said, but there was warmth beneath the words. "Trust me, it's not worth understanding." Her gaze drifted past me to the storms below. "Among my people," she said after a moment, "visible signs of internal discord are considered weakness in one who governs. Then your species must be very good at pretending." I said. Her eyes returned to mine. "We are." The admission felt heavier than any threat could have. I swallowed. "For what it's worth, pretending all the time is overrated. It gives you terrible posture." She tilted her head slightly. "My posture is considered exemplary." "Exactly." That earned me another almost smile. Footsteps echoed from the corridor. Her guards likely wondering whether I had already been vaporized. She straightened, composure settling back over her like a cloak. You spoke without calculation, she said. I specialize in that. It is rare. I shrugged. Humans call it foot-and-mouth syndrome. Very advanced evolutionary trait. Her ears angled forward again, unmistakably curious. When negotiations resume, she said, you will continue to translate. That's the plan, unless I've been reassigned to asteroid mining. Her eyes held mine for a long second. You have not. The guards arrived, pausing when they saw us standing at conversational distance instead of combat range. She turned to leave, then paused. You are incorrect about one thing. My stomach dropped. Only one. That's promising. I'm not tired, she said. A beat. I am alone. The words slipped through the space between us like starlight. Before I could respond, she moved past me, delegation reforming around her in precise symmetry. I remained by the glass, tablet limp in my hand, heart performing acrobatics unsuitable for zero gravity. Alone. I had expected anger, reprimand, perhaps a formal complaint lodged in triplicate. Instead, she had given me a truth. When I finally returned to the negotiation chamber, Captain Rhea leaned toward me. What did you say to her? Mostly things I'll regret forever. And I glanced at the alien leader as she took her seat. Her ears shifted subtly as our eyes met. And I think, I said carefully, we might actually be talking now. The holographic constellations flared to life above the table. Roots shimmered, defense grids rotated in luminous arcs across the crystalline surface. She regarded me not as a functionary, not as a risk, but as something else entirely. The tension in the room remained thick as interstellar dust, yet beneath it ran a new current. Fragile, unexpected, alive. I adjusted my translation tablet. Let's try not to sacrifice any offspring this time, I muttered. Her ears twitched, and this time I was certain she was not pretending not to react. By the third day of negotiations, I had developed a survival strategy: speak less, translate accurately, and avoid commenting on the emotional state of powerful interstellar leaders. It was a flawless plan in theory. In practice, she kept looking at me, not constantly. That would have been easier to categorize. It was the occasional glance, precise, deliberate, like she was testing the weight of my existence in the room. Every time her eyes shifted toward me, her ears made the faintest adjustment, and I had to resist the overwhelming urge to salute them. The chamber lights dimmed slightly as the station rotated, simulating evening. Humans grew subtly more tired. Her delegation did not. They remained poised, luminous fabric draped in geometric perfection, posture unwavering. I meanwhile had consumed enough caffeinated nutrient gel to qualify as a minor hazard. We were discussing corridor access through the Perseid drift, a region of unstable hyperspace currents that had swallowed at least 2 cargo fleets and 1 very unfortunate tourist cruise. Captain Rhea insisted on shared oversight. The alien counselors countered with mathematical projections so complex they made my eyes water. The translation tablet hummed obediently. No fermented algae, no sacrificial offspring, a personal record. Then she spoke. We will consider shared oversight, she said evenly, provided trust can be quantified. The word trust vibrated in the air. Captain Rhea smiled Diplomatically, trust isn't exactly measurable. Everything measurable was once considered abstract, the alien leader replied, her gaze flicked to me. I looked down at my tablet as if it might provide emergency instructions for sudden existential focus. After the session adjourned, I expected to retreat to my quarters and have a long conversation with the ceiling about professional boundaries. Instead, a member of her delegation approached me. The sovereign requests further linguistic clarification, he said. I blinked. Of course she does. This time the meeting took place in a smaller chamber, circular and quiet. Walls embedded with softly pulsing light, no guards inside, just her. She stood near a projection field displaying a map of overlapping star systems. When I entered, the door sealed behind me with a sound that did not encourage calm breathing. I assume this is where I learn I've mistranslated something catastrophic. I said. You have not, she replied. Good. I left my apology speech in my other uniform. Her ears shifted forward. Briefly, you employ humor when uncertain. I employ humor when certain too. It's very versatile. She gestured toward the projection. You spoke previously of leaders pretending. I felt the gravitational pull of that conversation. Return. I did poorly. You implied isolation. I exhaled slowly. I may have overstepped. You did, she said. There it was, but she continued. You were not incorrect. The projection shifted, stars dissolving into an image of a planet, her home world, I assumed. It glowed with faint bioluminescent patterns, vast forests shimmering like constellations turned inside out. This is avarice, she said. Our population exceeds yours by 3 magnitudes. Our neural networks allow shared emotional resonance across limited distances, shared feelings. I asked carefully. Yes, so if one of you stubs a toe. It is not so crude, she interrupted. Though something like amusement flickered in her eyes. It is attunement. Leaders must dampen their signals. Excessive vulnerability destabilizes collective equilibrium. I stared at the luminous planet. So you're surrounded by everyone all the time and still alone. Her ears stilled. Yes. The simplicity of it unsettled me more than any military projection. And when you said I looked tired, she continued, you identified strain in the suppression. That wasn't intentional, I admitted. I just noticed things. Occupational hazard, you noticed too much. I've been told that, usually right before someone regrets inviting me to dinner. Her gaze lingered on me longer than protocol required. Your species does not possess emotional resonance. Not telepathically, though we do have social media, which is arguably worse. I have studied your archives, she said. The phenomenon of comment sections appears volatile. That's a polite word for it. The projection shifted again, now displaying faint waveforms, pulses of light interconnecting like neural pathways. This is my signal, she said, regulated, contained. The waveform was smooth, controlled, and this, she added, and the pattern flickered, destabilizing, slightly brightening at irregular intervals. Is the response recorded when you spoke to me privately? I stared at it. That's me. It is the disruption. Disruption sounds bad. It is not. Her ears angled forward, unmistakably open. It was relief, she said. The word settled between us. You're telling me, I said slowly, that my inability to filter my thoughts caused a positive neurological event on your home world. Yes, I placed a hand over my chest. Mock solemnity, I would like this added to my performance review. She ignored that, or perhaps chose not to acknowledge it. When you said I seemed more human than intended, she said, I experienced something unfamiliar. Indignation, recognition, the projection. Dimmed, the room felt smaller. I have been addressed as Commander Sovereign. Strategist, she continued, never as tired. I winced slightly. I'm sorry. About that part I am not. Silence. Pressed in again, but softer now. You risk punishment, she said. I risk punishment daily. I once corrected a Martian trade minister's pronunciation. In public, her ears twitched. You are reckless. I prefer chronically honest. Honesty is not common in diplomacy. That's why we keep translators around. We blame them. A faint laugh escaped her. Again, less restrained this time. The door chimed softly, signaling an incoming communication. She dismissed it with a subtle gesture. My counsel questions my extended meetings with you, she said. That's fair. My own captain keeps looking at me like I'm either about to secure a historical alliance or accidentally insult an entire civilization. Which outcome do you anticipate? I try not to predict anything anymore. She studied me. Would you have spoken differently had you known the effect your words would have? The honest answer rose immediately. No. Her ears angled forward sharply. Why? She asked. Because you deserved someone. Not pretending, even if that someone is me. The room seemed to hum with quiet energy. She stepped back as the door unsealed. Before I could leave, she spoke once more. You once said my ears reveal more than intended. I felt heat rise to my face. I did. They are revealing now. I glanced at them instinctively. Forward, open. I'll try not to file a report, I said lightly. You will attend tomorrow's assembly, she said. Stand where I can see you. That sounds ominous. It is not. Reassuring. As I stepped into the corridor, her delegation watched me with unreadable expressions. I walked past them with the confidence of a man who had absolutely no idea what he had just influenced. Back in my quarters, Captain Rhea appeared on my wall display without preamble. What did you do? She demanded. I had a conversation with the head of state. I tried very hard not to comment on her ears. That's not reassuring. I leaned back in my chair, staring at the ceiling. She's thinking about changing how they negotiate, being more honest. Captain Rio went very still. That could destabilize their internal hierarchy or strengthen it. You're certain? I'm not certain of anything, I admitted, except that she's tired of pretending. Rio studied me through the projection. Be careful. I always am. She raised an eyebrow. Fine, I corrected. I occasionally consider being careful. The call ended. The room fell quiet. I replayed the waveform she had shown me. The disruption caused by my unfiltered words. Relief. Somewhere beyond the station walls, her home world shimmered. In distant orbit, billions of minds resonating in controlled harmony, and one of them had shifted because I couldn't keep a thought to myself. I lay back, staring at the faint glow of the station lights. Tomorrow there would be an assembly broadcast across star systems, protocol, precision, power, and she had asked me to stand where she could see me. I had the unsettling feeling that my chronic honesty was about to become significantly less private. The assembly chamber had been reconfigured overnight. What had once been a negotiation hall was now a broadcast nexus. its walls transformed into a living panorama of stars. Transmission arrays hovered like metallic constellations, projecting the events simultaneously to Earth, Mars, the Perseid colonies, and to Avarice. Billions would be listening, not only with ears but with whatever deeper resonance bound them together. I stood exactly where she had told me to stand, 3 steps behind Captain Rhea, slightly to the left, in direct line of her sight across the crystalline floor. I had polished my boots. It felt like a useless but symbolic act of control. You look like someone about to defuse a bomb with grammar, Rhea murmured. That's because I might be, I replied. Across the chamber, her council formed a semicircle behind her, tall, composed, ears held in disciplined symmetry. She stood at their center, luminous, fabric cascading in measured lines, posture flawless. Then her gaze found me. Her ears shifted forward, the broadcast signal pulsed, a low harmonic tone rippled through the chamber as the connection stabilized across light years. She began as expected. Representatives of Earth, Council of Avarice, allied observers. Her voice carried evenly, magnified by translation matrices that shimmered around her like a halo of faint equations. For cycles uncounted, my people have valued stability above all else. The holographic projection behind her shifted to display star routes and defense grids, familiar, controlled imagery. Stability, she continued, has ensured our survival. Her ears remained still, and yet she said, and there it was, the slightest pause, the smallest deviation from rehearsed cadence. Stability without trust becomes stagnation. A subtle ripple passed through her council. I felt it, even without resonance networks. Captain Rhea straightened beside me. In recent exchanges, the alien leader said, I encountered an instance of unfiltered honesty. My stomach attempted to exit my body. It was not strategic, it was not calculated, it was true. Across the chamber, one of her counselors shifted, ears angling in restrained alarm. Truth, she said, is frequently regarded as destabilizing. Her eyes locked with mine, but suppression of truth is more so. The holographic projections dissolved, replaced by something unexpected, a waveform, irregular, bright in places. I recognized it instantly. My signal, she said during a private exchange. Murmur rose from the alien delegation. On Earth, I imagined analysts frantically zooming in on their screens. This fluctuation was recorded when I was addressed not as sovereign but as individual. The word hung between worlds. For cycles, I have dampened visible signs of internal discord. I believe this ensured strength. Her ears twitched, not subtly, not suppressed. I was mistaken. The chamber felt very small. A leader who cannot be seen, she continued, cannot be understood, and what is not understood is not trusted. One of her counselors stepped forward. Slightly sovereign, he began. She raised a hand. He fell silent. I stand before you now without suppression. Her ears angled forward openly, unmistakably expressive. Gasps echoed, not loud but sharp across species. I realized I was holding my breath. I have been described, she said, and I knew this part was for me as much as anyone, as tired. A ripple of confused reaction spread across the alien delegation. I was not tired, she continued. I was alone. The translation matrices rendered the word across languages. Alone, isolation. Within authority is not strength, she said. It is erosion. Captain Ria's hand tightened slightly on the podium. I propose, the alien leader said, that our negotiations incorporate transparency protocols. Emotional indicators will no longer be suppressed. In leadership discourse, shared oversight of the Perseid drift will be conducted with full data visibility between our species. There it was, the shift. A human analyst somewhere probably fainted. Avarian counselors conferred rapidly, their ears moving in a complex choreography of silent communication. I couldn't interpret it, but I recognized tension. When I saw it, one counselor stepped forward again, sovereign visible. Vulnerability invites challenge. Yes, she replied calmly, it does. Silent stretch but concealed. Vulnerability invites fracture. Her gaze flicked to me again. I choose challenge. The statement resonated through the chamber like a struck bell on earth. Applause began, tentative at first, then growing as translation delays resolved. On Avarice, I could not hear their reaction, but I imagined billions of resonant signals shifting at once. Captain Ria leaned slightly toward me. Did you know about this? I suspected. Something less historic. The counselors withdrew into hurried consultation. Broadcast remained active. There was no retracting this moment. Finally, the eldest among them stepped forward. Transparency protocols, he said, slowly will require systemic recalibration. Yes, she replied, resistance will occur, yes. He studied her for a long moment, ears angled in complex deliberation. Then, slowly, deliberately, he allowed his own ears to shift forward, a subtle gesture, a monumental one. We will adapt, he said. A wave of sound rose from the chamber, not chaotic but alive, not polished but real. The broadcast concluded with formal acknowledgments, but the gravity of it lingered. As delegates dispersed, conversations erupted in multiple languages, some cautious, some exhilarated, some openly skeptical. I remained rooted in place until she approached. No guards this time, no counselors hovering. You did not flee, she observed. I considered it briefly, her ears curved, slightly, almost playful. You have altered more than you realize, she said. I said you looked tired, I replied. You did the rest. You provided interruption, she said. I chose action. Up close I could see faint variations in the iridescent patterns along her temples, not suppression, not fully controlled. Your council didn't exile you, I said. They debated. I'm sure they concluded that resonant stability increases when leadership signals align with internal state. That's the most scientific way anyone's ever described being honest. Her gaze softened. Your captain has agreed to shared oversight terms, she added. Perseid drift will be monitored jointly, so no one sacrifices any offspring, said. She tilted her head. Your idioms remain concerning. I exhaled, tension draining from my shoulders. I wasn't sure how that would end, nor was I, she admitted. That startled me more than anything else. You were. I have calculated outcomes my entire life, she said. Today I acted without complete projection, and her ears angled forward fully, and the uncertainty was invigorating. I laughed softly. Careful, that's how it starts. How it starts. And GT, chain. And GT. She regarded the dispersing delegates. the humans and Avirians already forming. Mixed clusters of conversation. My people will resist, she said quietly. Some will attempt to exploit visible discord, and you'll handle it. And GT, yes. And GT. There was no arrogance in the statement. Just certainty. I used to think honesty was a liability. I admitted that I should filter more, speak less, and now I think maybe it's not about speaking less, maybe it's about choosing when not to hide. Her eyes held mine. You have changed, she said. I've upgraded slightly, I replied. Minor software patch. A faint laugh escaped her again, clearer now, unrestrained. Your presence disrupted my equilibrium, she said. In a beneficial manner, I aim to destabilize responsibly. She stepped closer, lowering her voice. Though the chamber had largely emptied, there will be continued resistance, she said, from both our peoples. Humans are excellent at resistance. We once protested gravity. She studied me, then asked, will you continue to serve as liaison? I blinked. Is that an offer or a warning? It is an invitation to stand in rooms where honesty could fracture or fortify civilizations, to speak without pretense, to risk discomfort in exchange for connection. I glanced around the chamber. The stars still projected across its walls, the faint hum of interstellar relays. I'll need a better translation tablet, I said. That can be arranged, and maybe diplomatic training, that is less certain. I smiled. Then yes, I'll stay. Her ears moved in a subtle arc. I had come to recognize, not command, not restraint, but something like relief. Then we proceed, she said. Together we stepped toward the vehicle.